Welcome to New York's #2 sports show. The Yankees signed Max Fried to a 8-year contract worth $218 million. So an AAV just over $27 million, which is actually just a little over what Carlos Rodon's 6-year contract was. So uh, this is really step one of the Yankees pivot from not acquiring Juan Soto. And so my initial reaction is that this should lead to the Yankees trading pitching for hitting because the starting rotation on paper is pretty deep. Now, I'm going to put it into different categories. Now, the first thing I'll say is hopefully Garrett Cole is healthy. I still, there is a part of me that still does wonder, like, I think that they would have went for Fried anyway, but was part of it, not really knowing how Cole's arm is because, like, he didn't need surgery, but it didn't feel like he was quite himself. But assuming that he's healthy, and this is based more on, I guess, in some ways, contract and veteran status. But your top three right now is Cole, Fried, Rodon. And so I kind of like slotting Rodon. And again, it doesn't like the number doesn't matter much, but to me, like Fried is on paper number 2, and Rodon is 3. So those 3 are going to be here, no doubt. Then I'm going to take it a step like towards the back of the rotation. And that's Marcus Stroman right now. He is like, in essence, number 7 right now. I think if there's any way for them to get rid of him, I think they will. I mean, he has 2 years left on his deal. It's not a good value. I don't really think teams would be all that interested in him, but it's not completely impossible that you could work something out. You're not going to get anything back that's of value, right? So when I talk about trading pitching for hitting, I'm not thinking about Stroman, but I just think that he is someone that it's hard to imagine him being in the plans. And so I think they're going to probably try to find a way to shed that contract somehow. But I guess there is a world where he could, because you can never have enough pitching depth. And like I said, like injuries definitely do happen with pitching quite often. So he could find himself on the roster as insurance. Now, here is where I'll get into the potential real trade candidates, but also very potential valuable pieces to the rotation. And that is Luis Gil, Clark Schmidt, and Nestor Cortez. Now, with Cortez, he only has 1 year left on his deal. And I want to just completely confirm that, but I'm pretty sure it's just 1 year left on Nestor Cortez's contract. Let's just see. Yeah, 1 more year. So with him, I've always felt like it was possible that they were going to deal him. It seems like they were close at the deadline. It didn't come to fruition. And with him, I think that you can get something back, definitely. I think that teams would value him. But again, it's only 1 year left on the deal. The other 2 is a different story. Obviously, Luis Gil, and I didn't really discuss this much, and I wish I had, but Luis Gil, he ended up winning the Rookie of the Year. He won the American League Rookie of the Year, which I think was deserving. It was between him and Colton Cowser, and all along I felt like it felt like Gil wasn't getting the credit that he deserved. I mean, obviously there were stretches where he wasn't great in the season, but it was. I mean, the stats were impressive, and so I'm glad that he won that. But Luis Gil, I believe that Gil and Schmidt would both be under contract for some time. On Gil, I don't have the exact number, but I think that the Yankees have control of Gil for a good amount. And let's see with Schmidt if I can get more of a definite answer on that one. Clark Schmidt becomes a free agent in 2028. So you'd have 3 more years of Clark Schmidt, which is a pretty good amount of time. So again, that's a double-edged sword. Like, that's good for the Yankees if they keep him, but there's also definite value there to another team. So all that to say, I feel as if I wouldn't be surprised if 2, definitely at least 1, definitely one of, and Stroman aside, and then we'll get into Max Fried, but one of Schmidt, Gil, and Cortez, one of them is getting dealt, at least, and maybe two. Um, Again, Nestor is one that I feel like he will get traded. Like that one, I think would be the easiest one to project. But if you really want a good haul back, then I think that's where it's more Heel or Schmidt. I think that they appeal more to other teams. It's easy. I mean, it makes sense. They're younger and they have more years of control. But very interesting what they've done here. And so this Yankee lineup needs massive improvements with Juan Soto gone. Like right now, it's not even close to what it needs to be. However, on the pitching front, this is good stuff. I mean, Max Fried, let's discuss this contract and what Max Fried's history looks like and things like that. So here's the thing 8 years, like, that's a lot. Max Fried right now is 30. He will be 31 come opening day. So this is taking him to his late 30s, this contract. So that isn't great. What that did is it did decrease the average annual value. They kind of did the same thing with LeMahieu, and that kind of hasn't really worked out exactly. But I think that's why they did the 8 years. So again, it's a shade over 27 mil per season. It is the largest contract, the largest guaranteed contract for a left-handed pitcher in Major League Baseball history, believe it or not. And you wouldn't think that. But again, that speaks more to where we are now, as these contracts are growing every year. But Max Fried is the one that right now, and I'm sure it won't last long, but he has the largest contract for a left-handed pitcher. He is very, very consistent. I look at his numbers, and he was on a good Brave team. He is used to the postseason. Now, his postseason numbers are not great overall. 2-5 with a 5.10 ERA. This is 12 starts, 20 games. So the first 8 were relief appearances, and then the next 12 were starts from 2020 onward. And while those numbers aren't good, the one thing I'll say is this, and I didn't exactly look too deeply into each game pitch, but the one that I had to, because I remembered it and it was confirmed. 2021, when the Braves beat the Astros, Fried pitched a great, great game in the clincher. It was, I believe, a 7-0 Brave win at Houston. And Fried, I want to say, pitched maybe like 6 shutout innings. Let me see if I can pull that up real quick. Yes, 6 innings, 4 hits, no runs, no walks, 6 strikeouts. So, if nothing else, he has been in big situations. And with the Braves, a lot of playoff baseball. So you like that he has that sort of pedigree, and, the big moment shouldn't be too much of an issue for him. Originally from California. And I guess there was some talk that maybe he, was unsure as far as him signing in the East Coast. Clearly that did happen. And it sounds like the finalists were, you hear Boston was in on him. I possibly Toronto, possibly Texas. A lot of American League teams, and most of them more in the Northeast. But, he ends up signing with the Yanks. A good thing on Fried, 3-time Gold Glove winner. So he is someone, I think it was 2020, 21, and 22. So you figure that hasn't gone away, that he can fill his position well, which, again, that's a big thing. And I think we've seen that. So the fact that he is someone that's comfortable, at his position, definitely a plus. What else with Fried? Fried, there has been some injury, issues with him in the past. Just in looking at some of the game logs, clearly in 2023, he only made 14 starts in 23, so it looks as if he missed about half of that season. I guess other than that, I guess he has been on the field for the most part, so it's not like he has like an injury. I don't think anyone looks at Max Fried and says, okay, like injury history. You know what? And actually, come to think of it, let me see. The Fried injury, what was it? Is it possible that it was not arm-related? Let me see here. Max Fried in 2023. It was. I think it was a forearm strain. Is looking like what it was. Well, he went on the IL in 2024. Either way, like there has been a little bit of injuries, but look, that's just going to be the case with basically every pitcher. That's what it is. I mean, even Garrett Cole, who had been just about as healthy as they come, he dealt with it. So he certainly isn't someone that has the injury prone moniker next to his name yet. Now, look, if he gets hurt this year, I guess then maybe you could do that because it does seem like there has been some things that have piled up the last couple of years, but for the most part, has stayed on the field. Um, and let's see some other Max Fried numbers. Again, he has the best ERA, I'm sure, in a given minimum innings or starts since 2020. 2.25 in 2020, 304 in 21, 248 in 22, 255 in 23, and then 325 in 24. So actually, this past season was the highest. And, even that isn't so much. So he's more of a ground ball pitcher, which is why it's really important for the Yankees to really shore up that infield. And really, the only infielder that we say, I guess we'll say two. Volpe, we know, is going to be the shortstop, and then Chisholm very likely will either be second or third. I doubt that they move him to outfield. So that's two spots beyond that you don't know where they're going to be. And I think it's very important that you make sure that you have someone, again, if it's Christian Walker that's at first base, he's, a 3-time Gold Glove winning first baseman. So that would, fit that mold. But I think, you really want to make sure that you can clean that up. But, Fried was in the Cy Young mix for a couple of seasons. He finished second in 2022, having gone 14-7 with a 2.48 ERA, 185 innings pitched. How many strikeouts? 170. So he finished in second. Then he finished in fifth a couple years before that in the shortened 2020 season. He was 7-0 with a 2.25 ERA. So his strikeout numbers are pretty good. They're not amazing. They're decent, though. He's more of a ground ball pitcher and a very weak contact pitcher. But there's no question that Max Fried is really good. He's not, I don't think he's seen as like one of the definite studs out there, but again, these numbers are very consistent and very impressive. And I like the fact that he was with a good Atlanta team for years, a good franchise that knows what they're doing. So, I think that the transition here should be pretty seamless. Look, again, if you're being honest, I guess it feels as if his numbers the last couple of years, if you're to nitpick, the numbers the last couple of years aren't maybe quite as good as they had been. I feel like the pocket from 2020 to 2022 seems to me to be a little bit stronger than the last couple of seasons. Not by that much, but a little bit. And so I'm not saying that this may age poorly down the road, because it is very possible that it does. However, I definitely think that this is a smart move if the Yankees trade pitching for hitting. I think you have to. I mean, you basically have 7 pitchers right now, because you still have to include Stroman in that. Because look, the fact of the matter was, he basically was in the rotation for almost the whole season until the very end. They pulled the plug on it. But this is what it is, and that's good depth to have. And I think that they know that they need to fix the offense, and you don't really have that much. The options in free agency to me are not that great, and I don't know if it's worth the money. Yes, do I expect them to make at least one pretty big move in free agency from the hitter market? Probably. But maybe even a bigger person comes in the way of a trade, and you're looking at that rotation as where it is. And look, would it be tough to part ways with some of the pitchers I mentioned? Absolutely. I like almost all. I mean, Stroman aside, the other three, I am fans of all of them to varying degrees. I think Cortez at this point would be the easiest to let go, but Luis Gil, again, sky-high ceiling, and Clark Schmidt is slowly becoming a very stable, dependable part of a rotation, and, has a lot of good years left in him. So I'm not saying it'd be easy to part ways with them, but when you do have Cole, Fried, and Rodon at the top of the rotation, it gives you the ability to do so. So it's nice. You want to bring in talent. You want to bring in ability. And that's what the Yankees are doing here with this Max Fried acquisition. So again, Max Fried, 8 years, $218 million contract. And that's an AAV of $27.25 million per season. And we'll see what's next. But, Yankees are wasting no time, after losing out on Juan Soto. they pivot to Max Fried. Hopefully the first of many more moves for the Yankees this offseason.